Hello, I'm one of the ABAC LAB developers. In this video, we're going to be going over on how to use this application efficiently. When you run this program, you're going to be brought to our Policy Manager page. In this page, you can only upload ABAC files. We currently have it set that you can upload as many ABAC files as you like. For this demonstration, we're going to be going over 3 data sets: eDocument, Workforce, and University. Now, eDocument and Workforce are newly developed datasets that we went ahead and developed, and University is a dataset that we have been using for literature. Please be aware that these datasets are also available for you under the Datasets folder. Now that we went ahead and uploaded the 3 ABAC documents that I listed previously, you can see here that you're able to actually delete individual ABAC files from your container, as well as being able to actually remove all the files that you have here in the container with this clear file button. Now that we have that done, we can go ahead and move on to the analysis page. Now, I do want to go ahead and mention that if you do have a big ABAC policy, it might take a little while for it to load. Now that we have that covered, let's go ahead and focus within our stats feature. In our stats feature, you're going to be able to choose any policy that you went ahead and uploaded within the Policy Manager page. Here you'll be able to see the total users, resources, user attributes, resource attributes, total rules, and total permissions granted. Now, we also gave you an option to go ahead and save the stats as being displayed, and it'll only cover the ABAC file that you're currently looking at. Now, for example, if we want to go ahead and change the University, which is a smaller ABAC file, you'll be able to save the stats that's within being displayed. I do want to include that if you have a selected ABAC policy within your stats features, it's going to become your default primary ABAC file that you'll see when you open resource access and attribute usage, which I'll go ahead and demonstrate. So let's go ahead and look within our resource access feature. For this feature, you're going to go ahead and see 2 different types of bar plots. The left one being the top 10 resource with the highest amount of access for the selected ABAC policy that you chose, and the right one being the top 10 resource with the least amount of access. Now, these bar plots are really great to analyze because it displays resources with the highest and lowest number of users who have access. It also helps identify which resources are broadly accessible and which have more restricted access. Now, you also have the ability to modify these plots and can use the toolbar to do so. And we also went ahead and gave you a print function to go ahead and save both of these plots under one PNG. Now, if we go ahead and use our drop-down menu, we could go ahead and switch to Workforce. Here we can see in our left plot the top 10 resources with the highest access, and we see that the resources with the highest number of users who have access to them. Now, for the top 10 with the least access, there are no users who have any access to these files. Now let's go ahead and look at other features. Now that we're back in the analysis page, let's go ahead and look into attribute usage. Within this attribute usage feature, you're going to go ahead and first see a heat map where it shows the relationship between rules and attributes, and the density displays the amount of permission that those two both give. Now, just like the resource access feature, you're also given a toolbar to make selections, like for example the layout, and also the save button to save as a PNG, and to reset your plot you just have to use your home button again. Now let's go ahead and look within a more denser policy. Now we're looking within eDocument ABAC. If you remember from earlier, eDocument ABAC is a type of ABAC that we develop in a large scale so we can go ahead and experiment with it. Now remember, intensity reflects on how many permissions a rule covers based on each attribute. For example, Rule 18 and the attribute of user department has 5,481 permissions granted. Overall, this heat map does a great job showing the relationship between rules and attributes and how much access is given between those. But for now, let's go ahead and go back to the analysis page. Now that we're back within the analysis page, let's go ahead and look into the access evaluation feature. Now you see 2 different types of options, file check and manual check. For file check, this feature evaluates access requests from an input file based on the predefined policies, and manual check allows users to manually check access requests based on the predefined policies. Users can input subject, resource, and actions, and the system will determine whether an access is granted according to the policy rules. Since file check requires predefined policies, I'll be using these policies called Workforce Access Request and University Access Requests. Please note that these files are also available to you under the folder Test Input Files and Evaluation Test. Now that I went ahead and uploaded these access.txt files, I just have to go ahead and order them to the corresponding ABACs. Once you have done that, you can go ahead and press OK. When we first get to this page, you can kind of see there's a lot going on. First, we want to make sure everything's correct. So we're seeing here that we can evaluate requests for the university access request for the policy university ABAC. Once we know that's verified, we can go ahead and continue. As for this feature, you have a lot of different filtering options. You can go ahead and filter by user or resource, and you can also add it on by showing only permits and only denies. But if we also go ahead and look at this bottom left corner, it shows us the total permits and the total denies that this policy has. We also gave you the option to actually copy and paste through these texts, and we could go ahead and use that in a search function just to limit our search. And we also added this highlight just for it to be eye-catching. Now if we went ahead and went back, you can see here in the drop-down menu, we could go ahead and see other ABAC files with their corresponding access requests. And you'll see the same following. We can still sort by user, and we can still see only permits or only denies. We also gave you an option just to say the results are being displayed. Now let's go ahead and use the back button. Here we're going to go ahead and check out manual check. Now within this manual check feature, you're giving your policies that you went ahead and uploaded. You also get to choose the user, resource, and the action you want to go ahead and look into. Now please note, in order to use the search function, you don't have to use all three of the cells. You can use none, or you just pick and choose. Now let's demonstrate how to use this. First, we're going to go ahead and select user 1. All users are considered employees under eDocument. Now we're going to look into document 72. Now we're not going to choose any type of action for this one, and we're going to go ahead and use the search function. Now you see here, since we didn't declare a action, we can see all type of actions that user 1 can go ahead and execute. We have send, search, and view. At the bottom left of the corner, we can also see how many permits are available. And we also gave you the save button to go ahead and save this page that you currently have searched for. Now let's go ahead and go back and let's create a new search function. Now let's go ahead and redo the last example. We're going to go ahead and choose user 1, document 72, and this time we're going to choose the action of read meta info, then search. Now we see a deny. This is because there is no rule which permits user 1 to read meta information from document 72. Now seeing that, let's go ahead and make another search function. Just to note, I'm still within the eDocument ABAC. Now I want to go ahead and look within help desk 7, and I'm not going to put any resource in it. And I already typed out what I was going to type into action, so I'm going to go ahead and paste it. And what's really cool about this is that we can go ahead and separate each action by a comma and do a multiple action view. And now let's go ahead and press search. Now we can go ahead and see all the different type of resources that help desk 7 can access. Now under the action, we can go ahead and see the predefined actions that we set, which was view, read meta info, and search. For this one, we're going to go ahead and leave the user blank. And for the resource, we're going to put document 2. And then for the action, we're going to press view. Now let's go ahead and search. Now in this case, there are various users that can go ahead and view document 2. Now let's go ahead and go back to our analysis page. Now let's go ahead and view our last feature for the analysis page, which is rule analysis. Now for this feature, we have two different type of options. We have rule permissions and file check. For rule permission, it shows how many permissions are granted by each rule in the input policies and lists all permissions covered by the rule. Now for file check, it takes a set of rules from the input file and computes a total number of permissions granted based on the attribute data in the input policy. It is also listed all permissions covered by each rule. Now let's go ahead and dive in within rule permissions. Within this feature, you're going to go ahead and see all the rules that you have listed within your ABAC policy. It is titled to which rule you're looking to specifically and the total permissions that are granted. It also shows you which type of users and resources gives us those permissions. And of course, you're able to go ahead and switch between policies, and we also gave you the save button so you can go ahead and save your data. Now let's go back and check out rule file check. Now I do want to inform you that we do have to upload a text file. The text file that I'll be using is called University Rule Input. This can be found under the folder Test Input Files, then Rule Input Test. Now we need to go ahead and connect our University Rule Input to our corresponding ABAC file. Now that we're in this page, you can go ahead and check if your files are connected correctly. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and see the set of rules from the input file that you went ahead and selected. Now looking over rule 1, we went ahead and made this rule, and it does give us the permissions are granted along with all the users and resources that gives us those access. You can also use a drop-down menu if you have more input files, and of course you can use the save button to save your data. Now that we went ahead and covered all the features within the analysis page, let's go ahead and look into our data conversion feature. For this data conversion feature, it provides users with two options to export ABAC policy datasets into formats suitable for further analysis and integration with other tools. The first converts attribute data into CSV files, where attributes are stored as columns and the corresponding user or resource attribute values are placed in rows, while policy rules are saved in separate text files. Now for the second option, it allows users to serialize the parsed attribute data and rules, stored internally as Python dictionaries, into a binary file that can be deserialized and reloaded later. Since we know that these two options go ahead and convert our ABAC file to CSV, all you have to do is just choose your file path along with your file name for it to be saved in your machine. Now let's go ahead and do a quick walkthrough on how to use the export policy data. Now I still have eDocument ABAC selected. Now let's go ahead and press the button. And you can go ahead and see here that our file went ahead and became a pickle file, which is a serialized file. Now let's go ahead and name it, and now save it. Now the folder that I went ahead and exported to, we see two different types of files. We see the pickle file and the text file. Now the reason we went ahead and automatically give you a text file is because the text file just shows the information of the data that we use for a sterilization process, since the output pickle file is just a byte stream. The information in that file is not readable, and that's why we want to show the data information as a text file. Now let's go ahead and see how the pickle text file looks like. Now this feature is particularly useful for researchers who need datasets in a uniform, ready-to-use format for the ABAC policy mining or analysis algorithms. The Python serializable export option was chosen to align with the ABAC Lab's Python implementation and Python widespread use in data analysis and research, making it easier for researchers to integrate export datasets directly into their workflows. By providing consistent data formats, this feature enables new research efforts to easily reuse these datasets for evaluation and comparison, supporting reproducibility and benchmarking across different ABAC policy analysis methods. Next, we're going to go ahead and look into log generator. Now within this feature, it allows users to generate synthetic log entries based on specific criteria. Users can set a number of log entries to generate and control percentages of permitted and denied entries. Knowing this, we're going to go ahead and create a log for eDocument. Now you're able to go ahead and choose any type of ABAC file as you like. Since I know that eDocument is a large ABAC, we're going to go ahead and just choose 100 entries, and we're going to allow a 50 allow percentages. Now we can go ahead and press submit. Now your file explorer is going to go ahead and open. You can go ahead and choose your destination along with the file name. Once you've done that, your synthetic log will be available to you. Now I went ahead and exported the CSV into my VS Code. Here we can see the synthetic access log with the customizable parameters that we set for testing and evaluation. And we also went ahead and formatted the CSV for you by user, resource, action, and decision, so you can go ahead and see all the decisions of permit and deny. Next, let's go over demos. Now in this demos page, we're going to go ahead and upload a tutorial on how to use this application. Once you press this button, a YouTube video will go ahead and open up in your browser. Now at last, we're going to go over help and support. In this page, we went ahead and added a frequent asked questions that you could go ahead and look through. On the bottom right, we also added our version number. And over here on the left, we do have a report bug button. When you do press this button, a Google form will go ahead and open up in your browser. Now this is the Google form that will lead you to. Here you give us a bug description, a bug type, and also the ways to reproduce the issue. Any screenshots will greatly be appreciated. Now going back to the page, right underneath the report a bug button, you also have our email for any type of help that you might need. Alright, this is the end of the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it so far. If you need to contact us, please use our email to do so. And on top of that, in our YouTube description, we'll be adding our GitHub repo.